This is The Voice of London. Hello and welcome back to the second part of the show with me, Ian-Pelham, Turner on ALB UK Television and positivebritain.co.uk. This is The Voice of London. And we have the wonderful John Christian with us this afternoon. Good afternoon to you, sir.
Good afternoon, yeah.
It is afternoon right now. Well, I think it is anyway. Yeah. So, first of all, I'm going to open up this because this is something that you've just been telling me about. Yeah. So, this is really something that people can buy right now that you're supporting. So it supports people in the entertainment industry, but it's also fundraising for the NHS and COVID-19 at the same time. So what a fabulous thing.
It's a great idea, isn't it?
What a great idea it is. And I'll ask you at the end, how can people get in contact and get one of these as well? Tell me, why do you get involved in things like this?
Well, actually, I saw that advertised online, and I've got so many friends in the industry, on all levels of the industry, and I know how much everybody's suffering right now and struggling. So I just thought this was a wonderful idea, so I bought one, and it came this morning, and hence I brought it with me.
So you're doing life coaching alongside acting, and I know you're a singer and you're an entertainer as well. Yeah. And you've just said, a lot of entertainers, a lot of people within the entertainment industry are suffering right now. What type of things are coming to you? What type of problems are they coming with?
It's not just people in the business, obviously, it's people all over. So what I'm finding is in the desperation stage, when people get really low, it's even suicidal. I've been coaching some people online that are suicidal, so they've called me up and said, can you help? And also with friends in the business, just the challenge of remaining positive, the challenge of knowing how to manage all of that self-talk and chatter that brings you down rather than keeps you on a nice, comfortable in your own skin level, so to speak. Yeah, and these are all the things that actually on the upside, what this has given me the chance to do is have the space and the time to do my practices, which for me most importantly is the proper breathing exercises and meditation and the yoga and the things that make you feel good in your own body.
How do you feel when someone picks up the phone to you and says, I'm thinking of taking my life? How does that make you feel?
Obviously very sad. But because of the life experience that I've been fortunate to have, I've learned a lot about those things. I took a time working in mental care because I wanted to understand the psychology of how people end up in these kind of places. So I've learned to understand a lot of the importance of learning how to manage how we feel about ourselves. And when I look at people that are suicidal, the first thing I look to is their breath. And it's normally always upper chest, upper shoulders and tightness. So they're not breathing into the solar plexus or abdominal breathing, which means actually, as the yogis have known for thousands of years, you're disconnecting with the very source of your vitality and life force. And you're just taking minimal amount of energy and thinking with it. So the mind already feels dull to a certain extent. It's not in a good space. So then it's easier for us to get caught up in all the doubts and the fears. And as we know, fear is the most destructive force to our intelligence and our overall system. So fear drains us instantly. So what I've learned to recognize in myself, first and foremost, and then working with many people, is this: like there's two kinds of fear. There's the fight or flight response, which is like a built-in intuitive survival mechanism that comes from a higher sense perception rather than just the five senses. And there is imagined fear.
Do you think, I think, as you know, I've worked within the entertainment industry and worked with over many years. I've been a journalist 54 years now. Sometimes I wonder, is there a lot of self-doubt in entertainers, and does that allay themselves to the fear of every time they come off stage, will that be the last time?
Yeah. Absolutely so. My own personal experience. When I started out with a very low self-esteem, because like many, the way I describe it is more predominantly right brain people tend to become the artists, the musicians, creatives that way. So I learned to fear the left brain activity because I learned judgment around it, because I was told you're dyslexic. So that taught me to be afraid of I'm going to be judged any minute, I'm going to be criticised any minute, and it brought the question of why don't people see me for who I am? Why am I judged on that level? So because of that, I learned self-doubt to the point that for 27 years of my life, I avoided doing anything that might subject me to more criticism, like adding up and spelling and those kind of things, right?
Right, okay.
Right? So it was a deep wound for me, and it is for many people I've worked with, even managing directors. So I've really sought to understand how to heal that within myself. And what I found is that for many entertainers, we're also given the belief of I'm only as good as my next performance. Right? So we measure our worth and our value on the next performance. Most people do that on their job to please the boss or something like that. We don't measure it on an inner sense of our own worth and value, because we've not been taught, especially in the Western culture, to recognize the very fact that we're breathing and alive means we're enough already. And our worth is not dependent on a level of rational, logical, deductive process that is actually half the brain rather than the whole brain function.
Do you, or did you find that you have a different personality on stage to one that you know is you?
Yeah, because as I was, show business was the best school life could have put me in to actually regain my sense of self-value and self-esteem, and to face all of the fears that I'd learned of, am I good enough? What if I get it wrong? What if I can't remember? So through learning to have to recognize that, right, within myself. So I noticed that when I was doing impressions, I could find levels of myself that I couldn't find in my own self-image normally. So I used characters to develop those deeper sense of well-being. But then I had to learn not to only feel good about me in a character, I had to learn to feel good about me as a person.
Absolutely. Do you think you're a shy person?
I was in the beginning.
And I find with a lot of shy people, I'm exactly the same as you. You know, I had to fight shyness when I first started working in journalism. And when I first started, I was a photographer, so the camera was my shield. You know, I could walk into somewhere and the camera was my shield. I had an importance. For you to walk on stage and do it must have been even harder.
Terrifying. It was absolutely terrifying. I remember the first time I went on stage, I was so afraid. My mouth completely dried. This is why I've learned a lot about breathing. My breathing almost stopped. My lip got stuck there. I was shaking like this. Nerves were just twitching in my face. And you know the saying, lo, the things I most feared have just come upon me. So because there was no oxygen going to my brain, my brain seized up. I couldn't even hear the rhythm of the musicians behind me, and I forgot the words. And it was the worst experience in my life. And I thought, never again. But I kept doing it. So my own father would say to me, how do you do that, son? I said, Dad, you know, I don't know, something in me makes me keep coming back.
And that's the question I was going to ask is, what drove you? You know, because did you have other career opportunities? But was there that inner nagging self saying, I've got to do this?
So to me now, that's why I work with developing the intuition. Because to me, we are much more intelligent than we've been taught to think we are. And intuition is what's guided me all of my life. I didn't recognize that back then, but I do now in hindsight, that all my life there's been this voice that's guided me and pushed me to face my greatest doubts and fears and to overcome them.
And so you've created this book, How to Develop Intuitive Intelligence.
Yeah.
So tell me, what's the contents of the book? What type of things have you discovered?
Okay, so within that I shared stories obviously of when catalyst moments of really hearing loudly my own intuition. One was in 1959 when I was taking one of my meditation treks through the Himalayas, and I was with my group up in the mountains, and suddenly I felt, heard, sensed, don't stay another night. And I saw these clouds coming up through the valleys. So I said to all my team, come on, let's go back down to the campsite. And then I said to my Sherpas, we're not going to stay another night. Oh, why, sir? You know, I said, I just have this intense feeling we mustn't stay. So we packed up camp, and that day we were marching back down, and it rained heavier than it had ever rained before. And then when we eventually got to the helicopter pad to fly out, the helicopters were going up in the valley instead of picking us up. So of course I said, what's going on? They said, you don't know? The campsite was wiped out by an avalanche.
Gosh.
There was over 90 people. It was on the world news.
Gosh.
Yeah, 90 people killed.
Tell me some of the highlights of your career.
So, as a performer or as a...
Yes,
okay.
Both.
Yeah, okay. Highlights were having my own show.
Okay.
And that's my own summer shows. And
Okay.
Yeah. So as a singer, comedian, and impressionist.
Yeah. Do you miss that, or because I mean, strangely enough, God, I'm going back decades now, but I think the 1980s.
Yeah.
Every year I used to visit all the seaside summer shows in Britain and do a piece on the seaside summer shows. It took me 3 weeks to get around Britain as well. So, were they a different audience to today?
In the sense that comedy's changed so much, for sure.
Do you value that or not?
Yeah, I mean, there's some guys doing some great stuff with situation comedy, and good on them too. But from when I started out, it was jokes.
Yeah.
You know, everybody just did jokes. So that seems to have almost disappeared altogether now.
Yeah.
The only place I can get away with it is in care homes.
Well, you might be visiting mine before too long, along the way things are going. Do you think that that we may be going back to a time of more people having staycations again, and with that happening, do you think more end of the pier theatres might start opening up again?
I certainly hope so. You know, because look what the industry does for people. You know, we lift their spirits. You know, so for me as a performer, the saddest thing is that we can't entertain people any longer, because I've learned, you know, with a joke, with a song, particularly if I do the occasional show in a care home, and I watch those people come in, you know, like this, and with a song they remember or a joke already, they're sitting up. Yeah. You know.
So, sorry, I stopped you in mid-stride about your career paths as well. Yeah. So what other things were epics in your life?
Well, epics were that I was under management to the parents of the Bee Gees for a while.
Were you?
Yeah, so I got to meet all the boys, obviously. I used to babysit Andy Gibb, and I watched Andy grow into a global megastar.
Absolutely.
And I met many people at that level of fame and fortune at that time. I never reached that level other than to be in it and touch it myself. But it was a great experience. I learned a lot about values in that, and I learned a lot about myself from the sense of, you know, I started out in life just chasing, I'll be happy when I'm rich, when I'm famous. And then I would come off stage and maybe in a fantastic evening to thousands of people, and I'd find myself in the dressing room going, what now? Yeah. What next?
Did you ever define what was rich, what was famous?
I think that the richest thing, if I'm understanding your question properly, the richest thing is having this core sense of your own worth and your own value that is more important than your talents and your abilities. They're all wonderful to have, but I had to go through the learning curve of losing my sense of worth by trying to buy all rightness through my talents and abilities rather than have my all rightness and then really appreciate what I've spent my life working hard to be able to do. So
I know you've worked with celebrities as well. What type of celebrities have you worked with in your time?
Well, we were saying earlier, Norman Wisdom was, I used to do an impression of a lot of stars, but Norman was one of my favourites to do, and I had my own show in the Isle of Man.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And where Norman lived, of course.
Yeah, yeah.
And unbeknown to myself, our two managers set me up
Johnny
with Norman.
Yeah.
Johnny. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Johnny and Bridie Reid, who was.
He was my manager at one time.
Is that right?
Yeah. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah, small. Yeah.
A small one.
So anyway, so I'm on stage and I just put the hat on and the jacket and turned to the microphone like this, and the audience went, whoa, and I thought, oh my God, I haven't said anything yet, this is going well. And I caught somebody out of the corner of my eye, and it was Norman walking across the stage, holding a golf club. Now, we were in Douglas, and he lived in Ramsey.
Okay.
So, and he came up, and he's looking up at me, and I said, has anybody seen my golf ball? I hit it this morning in Ramsey. So, and the photographer took a picture just at that moment. We have the same expression on our faces. So Norman very kindly signed it for me. Yeah. And moments like that, so many moments like that, as you can imagine, with so many people.
I mean, I remember, I remember Norman very well. So coming forward now, to, what are the things that still make you get up in the morning?
It's knowing that I can do practices that make me feel good in my own skin. It's knowing that despite everything that's going on out there, I've learned some skills and tools and techniques where I can calm my own mind, stabilize my own emotions, and not get lost in the externalization of the horror stories that are going on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tell me what you mean by life balance as well.
Yeah. Okay, so what I've learned from that, you can put it in different terminology, but basically we have left, right brain hemisphere, which I think in my personal experience with meditation, the brain is just filters for conscious intelligence and life force. So depending on our upbringing, depends which side we're most dominant in. And then we have now, as was recently on a BBC documentary, a second brain, which is called the tummy brain, which is very interesting because we've always had these sayings, gut feeling, sixth sense, So I've been understanding through my meditation experiences, what does it mean to breathe properly? So here, I'm activating those cells of this tummy brain. The BBC was saying have more influence over our thinking process than the thinking does over that. So we're highly intelligent on a solar plexus level. But when you look at that, when the mind is left to its own means and we're just caught in thinking, we can send thoughts through the central nervous system that disturb the tummy brain. As soon as we do that, our breathing becomes shallow, nervous, and then we learn to not want to breathe because we don't want to feel those feelings.
Yeah.
Right? The feelings that we're imposing upon ourselves, but we've lost that understanding.
So someone comes to you for help. What's the experience? What do you physically do?
Yeah. Well, I had a lady call me the other day, bless her, and she said, I'm suicidal. So I said, tell me what's going on. How do you think I might be able to help? I don't know. I'm so lonely and I'm locked off and I can't see my family and I can't see my children and I'm drinking too much and I'm not eating anymore. So I said, let me see how you breathe. Straight up there. So I said, okay. So the first thing that I know I can help you with, if you're willing to do it, is let's try and relax your body and change that breathing pattern. So I asked her, just put one hand on your chest and watch me. I'm going to do your breathing pattern with you. And she said, that looks like hard work. I said, it is. It's hard work for me. So let's see if we can relax you. So the first thing I want you to do is just think now, instead of the panic and the family, just try and think about relaxing yourself. And notice, tell these shoulders, relax, breathe, relax, enjoy. I have the same, breathe, relax, enjoy. Okay. And now put your hand on your tummy and try and imagine there's a big coloured balloon in here, and be like a child. So when you breathe in, the tummy comes out, and when you breathe out, the tummy goes in. So she did that. We did that 2 or 3 times together, and she went, "Oh, blimey, love," she said. "I wouldn't believe that," she said, "would you?" She said, "I've been breathing all my life, but I didn't know I could do that." and it changed her instantly.
Yeah.
And I think it's this understanding that the East has had for thousands of years, we're just beginning to kind of wake up to again in the West in a real way. We have to put that knowledge out there again, especially in this time, and help people breathe properly.
And you're part of another book as well called Life Shift Stories as well. So tell me a little bit about that as well.
Well, I was actually coaching in Denmark.
Okay.
And a friend that I was working with, who was one of my organisers, Mona Wimbrat, she said, "I'm working on a book project with some friends, and we'd love it if you'd be part of it. Would you contribute your story?" So that's myself and 11 other storytellers and writers.
Okay.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
Okay. So, what's the future for John Christian?
Yeah. Well, for me, I'm going to continue diving in and exploring this inner potential that we all have, because it's fundamental. It changes me as long as I do the practice, and that's where we're short. We know a lot. We're beginning to know a lot about these things, but we don't do the practice. So that means wake up every day, do the breathing, do the yoga, do the exercise, watch the diet, do everything that keeps your energy in a place where you feel good about yourself. It's so simple and it's so obvious, really.
Yeah.
Right? And so my future is to do as much as that as I can in every way possible to help people.
Can I ask you, as a personal, how old are you?
I'm 73.
You look fabulous.
Thank you.
How do you keep so healthy?
Exactly, by doing this practice. I really do. And I found that it's not just fairy stories, all the things that you can find written in religions as guidelines of correct living, and also written in martial arts and Tai Chi and yoga and all these things. There are some beautiful, simple truths there about how to function in the human body properly if we're willing to live that way. And that's what it takes. So I've learned the hard way. When I don't live that way, I pay the price instantly. When I do my practice instantly, my energy comes back. Why does it come back? Because the breathing puts like the petrol in the tank. Yeah. You can't think clearly without it. You can't feel good without it. Everything suffers because of it. So doing the breathing practice, my mind becomes calmer and more peaceful, and I feel good. And I feel good with whatever I'm doing. Yeah. It's simple and it works, and we all need to do it, especially right now.
Excellent. Thank you so much again.
Thank you.